welcome to Gen Z Talk, MCA TV's all-new nostalgia-based program for all you kids of the 2000s. I'm your host, Nate Dax. So with this being the pilot, just to give a basic rundown, with each episode of this show, I will be focusing on a particular topic of the said generation, plus also going into what makes it significant from my perspective, and also my opinion on how it's changed over time. Now, sitting with me right here is Nick Hederick, assistant producer. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm a big freak for nostalgia, and so I've been smirking ever since you showed up. I'm ready to get going here.
Nice, glad to hear it. So, let me just start by asking a question. Obviously, we were pretty much the last generation of kids, or at least the last generation to really remember what it was like to grow up without social media.
Yeah, for sure.
So how would you feel like, our childhoods were different from children of today regarding that?
That's a very loaded question for within 2 minutes of us starting. I don't know. My wife and I had a very similar talk even just the other day, and this is kind of like a side tangent, but I promise I'll get back to your question of like, when we got cell phones, we were like middle school, early high school, and now you see like kids that are really, really young. And like the concept of them being exposed to social media, being exposed to like, and I know there's parental like blocks you can put up, but all the negativity that comes from that, all the, having opinions confirmed or like formed from things you're reading from maybe not the best sites, like it's just a whole new world, and it's all been within like, maybe not even a decade that switch has happened already. And so that's like, kind of mind-blowing for me to think. But to answer your question, man, I don't know if I have a good answer yet for you.
No, just give it your best shot.
It's kind of crazy to think of just like growing up without a cell phone now. And I don't know anything to say that's not too cliche. Just like, playing outside, hanging out, not really caring what other people think as much, which I think is kind of like my biggest thing now is like how these kids are going to be maybe paranoid almost about what everyone thinks about every little thing and like every little opinions on the internet, and their whole life is now going to be tracked on the internet, where with us maybe it's like 12, 13, 14 is when that started. Now it's like a much younger age, and I'm kind of glad I wasn't exposed to that at that age. Like I felt like I could just have fun, and I felt like we could just do what we wanted and enjoy things, enjoy the outdoors, enjoy our friends, enjoy the memories, and not have to feel the need of like the pressure of the societal standard of now like pushing that everywhere. If that kind of makes sense. Like you could just live and be a lot more carefree, I think might be the best way to summarize it.
Yeah, of course. I didn't start using social media until I was in my last year of high school. So I feel like I was like just so used to like not, using it still, like from when I was younger, like before it really like took off and became a big thing. And I never really felt like I was missing anything.
Right.
But yeah, now, I can't go like a whole day without looking at my Instagram or my Snapchat or anything like that.
No, I completely agree. And it's like, I've had friends who've like done the full circle, if you want to call it that, of like started social media together or like around the same time, late middle school, early high school, and then did it through college, and now they're getting married, now they have a kid, now whatever reason, and they go like, oh, I'm not really on it anymore. And it's like crazy to think we've come to that like full scale of like, we're real adults now, and like that's not as important. But like there's still people, and there's people much older than us who like that's their life is to like go on social media. And it's just interesting to kind of see all the dynamics, and now for the first time ever, kind of like how you led into that question, we're gonna see a generation that's had that their whole life. Not just like when they started high school, but like from the minute they were technologically conscious, I guess, they've been putting things out on the internet about themselves, which is a crazy thought to have, because this isn't incriminating or anything, but like imagine giving like 8-year-old or 9-year-old Nate Dax like the freedom to say whatever he wanted on the internet. Like there'd be some crazy opinions out there that you have.
8-year-old me was a lot more wild.
I can imagine, but it's crazy to think of just like you being exposed and like sharing thoughts with the world for that long, I guess.
Yeah, now, of course, we're in a TV studio here, a very like media-centered environment. So staying on that topic, I have a few things that I would like to, I guess, discuss that relates to that. Something else that I feel like our generation has that's pretty extraordinary is the fact that we were also the last generation of kids to grow up with VHS. Do you have any comments on that?
I do, actually. I vividly remember, oh boy, I don't have a guess at how old I was, but I vividly remember my dad coming upstairs one day with a big box, and you're probably ready for a really heartwarming story, and I promise you it's not what you're expecting. A giant box of VHS tapes, and I was kind of like, I remember my dad like filming stuff growing up. Like, I wonder if now that I'm like, I was probably close to going to college, I was like, I wonder if we're gonna go down memory lane and watch all of these things really quick. And no, instead, he pulled out a tape and it had WrestleMania 10 written on it. And we watched a very, I know there was a way to like illegally watch or rip like pay-per-view closed circuit events back in the 90s and whatever. And I don't know if this is what happened or the tape was just old, but he plopped it in and we watched like a WrestleMania from 1993 or 4 for like an hour. And he just thought it was the greatest thing ever that we were watching this together. And that's definitely one of my like vivid memories of VHS. And of course you have the essentials. Growing up, we had like Little Mermaid, Bambi, and all those on the bottom of the DVD and VHS shelf that I think every family probably had growing up. I remember all those Disney classics sitting on there.
Yeah.
No Titanic though. I know that's a big thing. The Titanic on VHS is kind of like a meme nowadays. We never had that in the house.
I just saw that like the other day actually. Like kids will never know now like just how big of a struggle it was to watch Titanic on 2 tapes.
I just saw a clip of the movie on TikTok, I think it was, and someone in the comments was like, I always remember this scene because this is the last scene before you have to switch the VHS. And I was like, it's crazy that people don't even know what that is now.
I know. But yeah, I mean, I still have a drawer full of those old Disney tapes. I mean, haven't watched them in years, obviously, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like a novelty now to have those, right? Just for like nostalgia's sake. But I remember when I was growing up, the place to go to like check out new movies was always the library, right? That was kind of like, I guess, like my video store, right?
Right.
Kids of the 90s had Blockbuster and Hollywood Video. I feel like that was kind of like my equivalent of that. But yeah, I never knew there was a difference between like a VHS tape and a DVD.
Yeah.
You know, like I never like realized like one's quality is better than the other. But more than that, you know, the one thing I always think about with VHS is like obviously, you know, there was once a time where, you know, unlike today where you can just film everything with your phone, like your kids' like sporting events or dance recitals or you know, music shows. You know, you had to go out and buy this expensive camera. You had to buy tapes for it, and just to give a little example here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got these. These are my own like home movies that my mom filmed.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't see the label, obviously, until
Yeah,
I just picked that one up.
So yeah, this is like Christmas 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom, she filmed everything with that camera up until it broke, literally. But yeah, like all my like school events or birthday parties, you know, she'd always be there with that. And that's actually kind of what got me interested in this field in the first place, because, you know, seeing her like do that, obviously when you're little, you know, you definitely can't help but take an interest to it when you're that young. But yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I remember those tapes. I remember a lot of those tapes.
Yeah. And then speaking of phones, again, like, you know, nowadays, you know, if you like want to go and like film your kids like soccer game, right? Or, you know, band concert, you know, all you have to do is just pull out your phone, you know, pull up the camera and film it with that. But, you know, again, there was also a time when phones
I was gonna
were like this.
make a joke that you were gonna pull that out.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see that. What a classic.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and check that out.
I was gonna say, can I please hold this?
Yeah,
I
of course.
remember my parents having one of these. I don't know if this is the stereotypical Nokia phone, but it's very close. And I remember my parents had
Yeah.
that, and it was a big deal.
Yeah, my mom, she had one that was like even bigger than this
Yeah.
at one point. There was like one of those big bricks from like the late 80s.
Right.
Yeah, so she had one of those.
My parents, like, that one lived in their closet. Like, they had the cell phone, and it was in their closet, and I don't know, I mean, they held a charge for, I think, 20 years. That's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, my parents always had theirs in their closet, and I don't think I've ever had the courage to ask them why their cell phone was in their closet. But, yeah, I remember that phone very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy to think, like, this was only, like, maybe 20 years ago that they were using this. And, you know, it's crazy to think, like, how much you can do with a phone now. Like, all, like, the apps you can have, social media, games, you know, take pictures, obviously. Like, it's so crazy to think, like, all that seems like such a necessity now. But, like, back then, like, there was only one thing you really needed this for, you know. You couldn't even text people with it, right? So...
I remember playing Snake on the really old cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the games. Very pixelated. It was a good time.
Yeah, right. And then, of course, there's also music. This was also my mom's, and so is this. This is a Sony Walkman. I remember, like, seeing her when she'd be out walking, she'd have this on. And then this, I mean, you can just tell this was pretty well loved. I even pried one.
I was gonna say there's a button.
I
missing
even
in
pried
there.
one of the buttons off. Yeah, sorry about that, Mom. You know, but I feel like in this case, though, it seems like, you know, nostalgia definitely has made its impact here, because just last week I bought this brand new off Amazon, and it works, you know, just the same as like this one did.
Yeah.
You know, you can, you know, put a tape in. You can like scan through the radio stations, and I've been using it like every night since I've had it. You know, I'll tune into Wish late at night, and I'll listen to music on that. Yeah, it's definitely made its impact on me, like as far as nostalgia goes. But
That's awesome.
did you have anything like that growing up?
Oh boy, we definitely had them in the house. I can't really remember vividly if I ever really claimed one as my own. I don't think so. We had like one of the big like boombox radio things in the garage and one in the basement. I remember listening to both of those at one point or another. But as far as like having my own Walkman or CD player things, not really. Which I love, like having physical media now. I've kind of gone backwards and like started buying stuff, so I like have it to own it instead of streaming it nowadays. But like back then, I didn't think about that much. Just listen to the car and the radio, like on my way to school and whatnot, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, definitely saw things like that, obviously floating around in the house. My dad also had like 8 tracks, which I think were very short-lived,
yeah.
like in between vinyl and CD. Doohickey, and he always made jokes about those, and there's still like a dozen of them or so in my parents' basement lined up. So yeah, definitely saw all the fun little music players throughout the years too.
Yeah, I mean, and you see them like in thrift stores now, 8-tracks even. I mean, I've seen them, and I remember my dad, he would say the same thing, because I think he actually had a car that had an 8-track player in it. So yeah, that's it's crazy to think like how many formats there were back then, because I feel like that's definitely an obscure one.
Oh yeah.
And I even remember in high school in my TV production class, our teacher, he like showed us a picture of like 8-track tapes, and he asked us like, does anyone know what these are? And I was the only one who did. And I think he might have even asked like, how do you know that?
Yeah. We had I think, I could be wrong, but I'm 90% sure we had a Laserdisc player in my parents' basement.
Oh, wow.
But I never saw a Laserdisc in the house, so I don't know if that was inherited or what. But
Laserdiscs were kind of the same way as, kind of like earlier you were talking about Titanic, how that was on 2 tapes. Most, if not all, movies on Laserdisc, I'm pretty sure, were on 2 discs.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about Laserdiscs. I'm
Yeah.
just, like I said, pretty sure we had a player in the basement, and I never saw a physical Laserdisc itself.
We had a Betamax player.
Okay.
Betamax is kind of like just a miniature like VHS, right? Yeah, we had that, and I watched some movies on that with my dad. We still have it now, but I couldn't tell you the last time we used it.
My dad always made jokes about me borrowing his Walkman. Like when I was getting iPods and stuff, that's why I just started laughing a bit. He would always be like, "Do you want my Walkman?" And I'd be like, "No, I want an iPod Touch." And
iPod Touch.
you know, when you're 11, that's not very funny. But now looking back at it, I'm like, that's a pretty good gag to ask your, child if they would rather have something like this instead of an iPod Touch, and they can play Doodle Jump and Angry Birds and all that. Or do you want that?
So moving on, let me ask another question here.
Okay.
When would you say you really started to notice that our generation was starting to become, shall we say, like a thing of the past?
Oh gosh, that's loaded. These are good questions, Nate. Honestly, probably before I was even done with college. Just like, I don't know if it was a COVID thing, and I know it's like stereotypical every generation. They go, the next generation's doomed. These kids have no manners, blah, 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 blah. Like we even heard that, obviously.
Of course.
But I don't know if it was like a thing like post-COVID or what, but I feel like by the time I was graduating college, I was like, these teenagers and like middle schoolers, like they're kind of crazy. Like they got no shame. They kind of just do what they want and there's no repercussions. And there obviously are some, but I don't know if it's because of like all the social media and like the streamers they watch and all these things, but like they're a lot more intense, a lot more out there. And like, I feel like me and a bunch of my friends were kind of like more reserved and like together we were really loud and outgoing, but like in public, you always like had everything on straight and like you were ready to go. And nowadays, like even in public, you just see them like yelling slang at each other and like really not paying much attention to the world around them. So I probably, like I said, felt that way by the end of college. So I think 22 was kind of a scary time to realize like, wow, we're not the youngest demographic roaming the street anymore.
I feel like for me, it was probably like when I started seeing those reels on like Instagram that people would make and they would say like, oh, things that you'd remember if you were a kid in the 2000s, right? Like TV shows or like snacks or what else? Like books maybe.
Yeah. The 6 disc changer in the cars.
Yeah.
I just thought of those too.
It really is like, I feel like when I saw that, that's when I started to think, I think we've officially like started to get old now. Like to see that.
I get those nostalgic TikToks all the time, and it makes me really depressed. But we don't need to talk about that too much.
I mean, I like seeing them, but it's just like so hard to believe just how long it's really been.
Yeah.
'Cause in a way, at least for me, it still does feel kind of recent. But and I've never so much really been one to like when things change so much. Like you get that?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I was also like an only child and one of the youngest in my family. So like now to think that like I'm older and then you see those nostalgic things, it's like, whoa, like this is kind of trippy even for me because I'm supposed to be like the young stupid one who everyone laughs at and goes like, haha, like welcome to the real world. And now it's like, I've been doing the real world thing for a while now. It's kind of a weird shift getting older a bit and like putting it together like, whoa, the Wii did come out 16 years, that's probably not the right number, but like 16 years ago, like that's kind of crazy. I remember when my parents gave me mine, like.
Yeah, more like 20 years ago, I think, Yeah, I remember, same here, I remember I was in first grade when I got mine and I still haven't played it, in a while. I mean, just because like, that's the thing, when you get older, you get jobs, obviously, you get busy and, you lose like, you don't lose interest, but I guess you just lose like, how do I say, you don't really have like the desire anymore to play it.
Sure. I was telling you before we went on air, like my Wii's in my parents' basement still, and when my wife and I move out of an apartment and get our house, like I'm running to that Wii.
Yeah.
Now that we'll have room for it, like I'm really excited. I still have all the accessories too. I have like, I think Nerf made a bunch of accessories. Like I have the tennis racket clip on. I have a baseball bat clip on. Like Wii Sports is trembling, I heard, that I'm going to be returning. And me and the Mii's I made when I was like 10 years old, we're going to have a time whenever I become a homeowner. I'm excited for that era.
That's what's up. That's no, I mean, same. I mean, I feel exactly the same. I mean, that's like, again, it's like so crazy how at one time, like, we thought that like it could never get any better than that. As far as like video games went.
Right.
Like even now, like when you see like PS2 graphics or Xbox graphics. I remember like, being little and seeing that and thinking, wow, it looks so realistic.
Yeah.
And then you see it today and you're just like, just like how it looks so like, it looks so like blocky.
Right, exactly.
So like, definitely like still a work in progress for sure, especially when you compare it to today's graphics.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
I was a big like graphics don't matter to me that much guy, and like I'll bounce back and forth between like my newer console and then like my 360, and even now I have to be like, wow, this looks really outdated. Like this is tough.
Yeah. But again, going back to like media formats, until just recently, I actually had a cassette player in my car. I had a 2004 RAV4 Toyota.
Okay.
And that had a cassette player in it. And I actually had some tapes that I would listen to sometimes.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, since I got a new car, I don't have that anymore. And that's pretty much why I chose to buy this, so I could still have a way to listen to those tapes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, I feel like in a way, like it goes to show you that like formats like that, even if they are outdated, people still have a desire for them. People still want to use them.
I think it like I said, I like having physical media now, and I think that's kind of like, I don't know how overwhelming that wave's kind of becoming on people, but I read a lot about people saying there's all these subscription services and you don't own any of that. Your favorite show's on Netflix one day and off it the next day. Like there's no guarantee that's yours to watch even with the fee you pay. And so I've read about people buying box sets of their favorite shows, like the whole series, and then buying records, CDs, whatever, to like own it. And I think it's kind of cool. Like I like physically owning it. I like looking at the cover art, the little pamphlets they put in some of those things. Like I think it's fun, and I kind of miss that interaction of, begging mom and dad to take you to the store to buy the new Pokemon game or whatever. And then there's that rush on the way home where you're holding the box in your hand, you've peeled everything off, and you've looked at the instructions, you've read the back, you've like studied the art on the box all that on the ride home, like that little added rush, the last step before you can get home and like put it in the system. I kind of miss that. I'm kind of glad that's coming back. Maybe not like fully, but to an extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Even like on Switch, they have like older games that they're like re-releasing, like games from the Wii or even like the GameCube maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, nostalgia, it's there, it's everywhere. And I feel like it's only going to keep growing more as time goes on, especially like not just for us, but like kids of the 80s, kids of the 90s. Yeah, it's definitely a growing thing.
Yeah. Maybe one day we'll have midnight releases come back too. Where we're all camped out outside the stores.
Man.
I was never old enough to partake in one, and by the time I was, it was no longer really a thing. But I see photos of those once in a while, and I remember like older siblings of my friends, like Assassin's Creed games, COD games, going out and doing the midnight release and hanging out, and I was just like, what fun that would be. I think some of the fun's gone, and I know that sounds really, again, depressing, but like it'd be so much fun to do that. And you don't know most of those people at like a midnight release, like you probably go with a friend or two, but then you like probably find that sense of community with everybody hanging out outside the store, like just things like that are fun. Kind of miss that. Wish we got to partake in a little more before we got older, but we probably just missed that cutoff to participate in some of that.
Yeah, for sure. I was at my mall recently, and one of the stores that I always used to go to when I was there was FYE, and they just recently closed, which was like really sad to see. And then also GameStop, the GameStop that they have there, that also closed. So that's always a shame, especially when it's a place that you like grew up with, because again, like that was always the first place I'd go to when I would go there as a kid. And I could be there for over an hour, and I could just never get tired of being there. I'd go through all like the aisles, look at like everything they had, see if there was something that I hadn't seen before. And same thing with GameStop. You go there and you look at all the games, see what they have, see if there's anything that you might want to buy. And they'd have like all the old systems, like the DS, DS Lite, DSi. DSi, I'm nostalgic for that because I had one of those when I was a kid.
Okay. I forgot about the DSi.
Yeah. That's like that's the one that had like the built-in camera. And there was like I remember one of the games on there was kind of like a drawing game. It was called Flipnote
Yeah,
Studio.
yeah.
Yeah. And there was like a library you can go to where you could like watch everybody else's like flip notes that they would post on there. That's going back. I mean,
Yeah.
I really wish like we still had like something like that. I mean, I didn't even realize until just a few years ago that like the 3DS was no longer like being produced, that they weren't making games for that anymore.
Yeah.
I thought they still were. It's like, yeah, you just have the Switch now. You have that, which I guess is kind of like, a half and half like home console, half portable.
Yeah.
Which that's a great idea and all, but I don't know, I kind of wish they would maybe try to like make it more like a DS in the same sense that they made it like a Wii or a Wii U.
Yeah, I agree. I never had a DS. I stopped at the Game Boy train and then moved on to the bigger, more boxy consoles. But yeah, friends had DSs. Those were fun. Those were a lot of fun.
I never had a Game Boy. I remember being in kindergarten and like kids would bring those with them, and we would they would play. They would like pass it around and let each other play before we had to go inside.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
That's fun.
I was never any good. They never really let me play because of that. But yeah, there's still a part of me I think that would just like to have one. Just to, like get a little bit of that like experience back that I missed out on.
Yeah, I was actually given a DS like a couple years ago, and I still have no games for it. But
Wow.
one day I have to go out and I think get a few Pokemon games or something. Load that up and see what all the hype was about. Because like I said, my only nostalgic kind of feeling towards that was just kind of like you with the Game Boy, just playing my friends when they gave me a turn. And I didn't own the game, so I wasn't any good at them. And so that definitely hurt how long my turns lasted too. So,
well, when I was little, and we would go to my uncle's house for Christmas, me and my two cousins, who were both like 5 or 6 years older than me, we would go down in the basement and play Mario Kart 64. And of course, since I was so much younger than them, they were always better than me.
Right.
I was never really that good because I didn't really understand how to play it. But they'd play fair at least. They would never they'd never take any like cheap shots. They wouldn't like take advantage of the fact that
driving on Rainbow Road's hard enough.
Yeah.
Experience, you don't need shells being thrown at you.
We would always do like the balloon game.
Okay.
Like where you'd have 3 balloons and you'd have to like, I guess, pop them all in order to win. But I'd always be the first one to get out in that. But then like years later, when my uncle was moving out of his house, he actually gave me that N64 to keep, and I still have it now. And I mean, again, I haven't played it in a long time, but yeah, I mean, I remember when I first got it, I was playing Mario Kart like every day, and then we ended up having Christmas at our house that year, and my two cousins came over, and I was able to beat them that time.
Oh.
So yeah,
You've been practicing.
That's a core memory right there of like those like. Just like those, holiday parties growing up. I miss that, I really do, because I didn't get to be home for Christmas this past year, because I was at work. I miss that. I feel like, especially since we're all like so much older now, we don't really get to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they've grown out of it, and I'd still be down to do it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You have to be.
Yeah.
You tickle the competitive itch and the nostalgic itch, I think that's a good challenge to lay down every now and then, is bring up something old. Like in college, we did Wii bowling all the time, because someone was like, we were talking about it one day, and someone mentioned they still had a Wii with Wii Sports, and then the second semester of our freshman year, so I think I might have even brought my Wii, and we just started like bowling against each other all the time, and it was heated. Like we'd start in a coat and a hoodie, because it was like winter, and then we'd like be down to a t-shirt and just bowling our butts off for like 4 hours a night after class. So yeah, that's I'm kind of itching to do something like that now too. I think you might have inspired me to start some chaos in a group chat after this is over with.
I remember like when you would go pro in like bowling on the Wii, like I think you'd get like What would you get?
You
Do
got the
remember?
ball with the stars,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, you did. Did you ever get that?
Oh, yeah. I think several of my Miis have the stars because I
Yeah.
was actually good at bowling in real life too. So like, I was really excited to go on Wii bowling and be good there too. So that was always fun. The ball with the stars. Yeah.
Yeah, God. Man, I mean, I feel like we've definitely gone pretty deep down in this,
I would
haven't
say
we?
so. There's more too, which I'm sure we'll get into at a future date. But
Yeah.
this was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for your time. I
course.
appreciate you sitting here and talking about this with me.
Well, like I said, I love nostalgia, so
I mean, who
I'm
doesn't?
looking forward to when we book your next one here.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah, this is good. All right. So, if you're still watching, thank you for tuning in. And be sure to come back for our next episode because I'll be here, which means you need to be here. So, I'm Nate Dax, and this has been Gen Z Talk.